defense?
Well, defense and rebounding win championships. We're not a team that extends terribly much because we are long, and we've got bigger guards, and so therefore the closer we get to the basket, the better we defend, and sometimes that can be effective, making people score over the top of you and rebound the basketball. And so I think the fact that we've gone from being a high octane, up tempo, fast breaking, pressure defensive, full court team to more of a solid drop back team is the kids' willingness to play more solid and to play more team defense, and understand that's been the key to our success all year long.
And the last question, Coach, for those who don't understand, describe the difference between preparing for a tournament where you're looking at 2, 3, maybe 4 games in a short span, as opposed to playing once on a Tuesday, once on a Saturday during the regular season. How does the preparation differ?
Well, you got to pack more clothes. That's one thing you got to do, just in case you're lucky enough to win in advance. But you got to look ahead a little bit, and I never do. But you got to understand that if you win on Thursday, you play Friday afternoon, and you better not wait till Thursday night to do that scout. So because there's a 1-game difference, you've really got to do some planning. And we've spent Sunday and the beginning of Monday focusing on Ole Miss, if we're fortunate enough to beat LSU. And then after that, we'll focus on LSU. The assistants will all take scouts in advance. The second thing would be is how we practice. We'll only really practice hard one day this week because
it is this club defensively.
Very good. They're long. This team gets their hands on more balls, more deflections. They create havoc, and like Bruce said, it's a team that's not going all over the floor, full court, trapping, pressing. They're playing more position defense. Bruce Pearl figured out with this team, that's how they need to play defensively. It's hard to score. It's hard to get in the paint because they do such a nice job of deflecting basketballs and making sure that you don't get to run your stuff very easily. So defensively, this team is as good as Bruce Pearl has had at Tennessee.
And offensively, they've been good because of getting the Wayne Chisholm inside, getting him involved, forcing the defense to collapse around him. And now they have all that size on the court. So even if he misses a shot, you have guys crashing the backboards, doing a great job following up on the rebounding side.
Here's the defensive story. The Volunteers top 3 in the conference in 3-point defense, in steals per game, and in overall field goal percentage defense. They have been hanging their hat on D all season long. LSU, on the other hand, they won just 2 games in conference this year, one against Georgia. So it was Tennessee over Kentucky in the women's final. We could see Tennessee and Kentucky in the semifinals for the men's tournament. We'll look back at February the 27th when the Volunteers and the Wildcats got together. J.P. Prince and Scotty Hobson combined for 35 in that contest. And, of course, Tennessee won the game, one of the big regular season wins for the Vols, again, with Barry Booker and Mark Gottfried. Where would Tennessee have the advantage if, indeed, we had a rematch with the Wildcats in the men's semis?
Well, in the game in Knoxville, Tennessee had an advantage because Kentucky had a terrible day shooting the 3-point shots, 9% in that game. But Tennessee also did a great job throwing over the top of the Kentucky defense, got quite a few fast break points, and that was a big difference in that ball game because Tennessee struggles to score. The easy points are big for the Vols.
And some great matchups, if indeed that Tennessee-Kentucky matchup happened. A lot of talent on the floor, especially down low. Big guys like Chisholm and Cousins who can go inside and outside. Coach, it'll be a lot of fun to try to scout this game.
Well, it really will be. And again, if this happens, you'll have a senior in Chisholm and a freshman in Cousins. And tournament time, hopefully, you would think the advantage would go to the senior, although DeMarcus Cousins has played so well this year. He has been consistent every night. Everything that people have tried to do to slow him down, it has not worked. He's so good on the backboard as an offensive rebounder. DeMarcus Cousins has been fun to watch.
Semifinals Saturday at the Bridgestone Center in Nashville. The final comes at noon Central, 1 Eastern on Sunday, but obviously a lot of work to do before either one of those teams can start thinking about Sunday. When we come back on the Haviland SEC Tournament Preview, we'll talk about our possible pick for Player of the Year in the Southeastern Conference. Could it be a freshman?
It's Lobster Fest. Cooking.
The SEC tournament today continues in Nashville. Game 1 on this Thursday in the books. LSU and Tennessee is game number 2. Moments ago, as the Volunteers made their way inside Bridgestone Arena, our own Joe Dean Jr. caught up with head coach Bruce Pearl.
Well, Bruce, you lost your best player, Tyler Smith, and yet you came back the next week. You beat Kansas, then later on you beat Kentucky. Your team has been very resilient.
That's a great way to put it, Joe. We've been resilient. We've had good character. We've had pretty good chemistry, and we're playing pretty well right now.
You know, you come over here to Nashville where you have a big Tennessee following, obviously, and in the last 5 years you're 7-1 in that building. Any advantage this weekend?
I hope so. We're going to find out here in a hurry. We've come to Nashville because it's big orange country all across the great state of Tennessee. We do have an eye on the SEC tournament being here, and so we should feel comfortable in the locker rooms and the setting coming in and out of the building, so on and so forth. That alone is not going to be enough to beat LSU. We're going to play well, especially when you're looking at Tasman Mitchell potentially having this be his last game. He's such a great competitor. He's a warrior.
You know, the SEC, it looks like right now, has got 3 teams in the tournament. Your team, obviously, is one of those, and then possibly 3 others, Florida, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. What do you think right now is the state of SEC basketball as we look big picture nationally?
Well, I think it's pretty strong. I think when you got Kentucky back and on top, and the East being as strong as it's been. I mean, when Georgia finishes last and beats Illinois and beats Georgia Tech and has so many great wins, I think it's really, really strong. And of course, the thing about having a strong conference is it prepares you for whatever you're going to see in the NCAA tournament. I mean, I'm hoping that for Kentucky, if they're a number 1 seed, they will have been through the grind of an SEC, and they don't see anything out there come NCAA tournament time that they haven't seen in preparation that the SEC provided.
Bruce, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Joe.
Bruce Pearl was picked by the Tennessean today as the number 1 coach in the SEC. Whit, back to you.
And Joe Dean, it takes a special kind of man to rock orange suspenders, as Bruce Pearl is doing for this one. Coming up, some out-of-conference scores, the Jayhawks and the Orange in action today. We'll take a break, come back, get you ready for LSU and Tennessee. The Tigers and the Vols are up next for us on the SEC Network.
Would you trust
the men's basketball tournament here at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee? The Vols, it's a home game for the Orange. It's coming up next right here on the SEC Network. An SEC men's basketball tournament is presented by Haviland. Whit Watson, Barry Booker, and Joe Dean here for LSU and Tennessee. The 13th ranked Volunteers, the 3 seed in the East Division. LSU, the 6 seed in the West. Game number 2 on day number 1. Let's take a look at the brackets thus far. Alabama has a tournament resume. As we look at their overall numbers, their RPI is outstanding. The strength of schedule, quality wins, a bunch of them. They beat Kentucky. They beat Kansas when Kansas was ranked number 1 in the country. A win at Memphis. I'm not even sure bad losses factor in here. They are solid, Joe Dean, but where do you see them fitting? If they were to lose today to LSU, where do they fall in the NCAAs?
Well, I think it probably would drop them to number 5, maybe as a seed, maybe number 6. But Tennessee is the only team in college basketball this year that has wins over 2 teams that are going to be the number 1 seeds in this tournament. Plus, they have a great win at Memphis on the road. They play a very tough schedule. They're tough in this building, so this ought to be a good opportunity for them. I like Barry. I really like Tennessee's chances here in this tournament.
In Tennessee, as they played a bigger lineup lately, they moved Brian Williams into the starting lineup. They have 4 starters that are 6'7" or taller. This is a very difficult team to score on around the basket, and they do a great job scoring when they get it to the basket.
Yeah, and Barry's right. That's the size advantage that Tennessee has today with Williams and Wayne Chisholm down low, much more athletic. Tasman Mitchell's a great player, but he can't do it all by himself.
Now let's talk.
Thanks, fellas. The SEC Tournament first round presented by Haviland. You see Alabama's already advanced to meet Kentucky. Now who's going to match up with Ole Miss? Will it be Tennessee or LSU? Starting lineups being introduced right now at Bridgestone Arena. The guys talked about first go-around, 59-54 in Baton Rouge. I think if I'm Trent Johnson, I'm telling my guys, Jimmy, right now, you know what? We shot 31% and we hung with these guys. I mean, that's got to be something. And I think the other thing you can talk about a little bit is just look at game 1 and go hey, Alabama was down 18 points. They came out of nowhere to beat South Carolina. Those are a couple of things I think you can kind of hang your hat on and say anything can happen in a tournament game. That's what LSU's got to hope for today.
You know, and if you're Tennessee, you have a lot to play for. I know you're a lock for the NCAA tournament, Brad.
Right.
They could climb as high to a top 3 seed or maybe even a low 2 seed if this thing plays out well for them. So they have to come out with their hands on the throat of LSU, I think, early and choke the life out of them. If you're LSU, you heard the guys talking about keep the game in the 50s. That's exactly right. Well, but how do you do it? You don't turn the basketball over.
Let's take a look at our Haviland Star Watch. And the guys already talking about these two. Tasman Mitchell, he's Mr. Everything right now for LSU. And Wayne Chisholm, though he's not the leading scorer for Tennessee, he's the undisputed leader of this volunteer club. Let's take a look at the Comcast starting lineups. First for LSU with 2.